So I guess people needed a bit of a longer break to discuss the previous panel and feedback session from the Commission. So please have a seat, and we will now approach cybersecurity certification with a risk-based approach. So how does cybersecurity certification helps to manage risks? So we will see it from daily life risk management, so from basic uses to high expectation, how we can address this topic. So for this, I will call on stage Eric Vetillard, that will moderate the panel, as well as Sylvain Leroy from ANSSI, Helge Kreutzmann from BSI, and Gabor Horniak from NXP. So please come on stage, and you can start with your flash insights. Thanks.
Please take your seats now. So welcome to this last panel of the day. So we're going to talk about risk management. But the first thing, we're talking also about certification. So we have to remember, what do we do certification and what certification is? So certification is always a demonstration that requirements are fulfilled. This is the core definition, and it's done by a third party. And if you look in cybersecurity in particular, what we're looking for is, many cases, requirements that come from the identification of risks. So we look at some risks, we look at some threats, and then from that we derive some requirements in terms of security so that we kind of mitigate those appropriately. And same thing for the demonstration. So the demonstration, and in particular the level, the depth of the analysis that we're going to require depends on the level of risk. So in the end, we realize that the certification is almost entirely based on the notion of risks. So we have that, and then after, when we're done with the certification, we need to ask ourselves the question, is our demonstration valid forever? Well, of course not, because things happen in life. So we get a number of things, vulnerabilities coming up, incidents happening, fraud, new threats, whatever. So it means that we still have to continue managing this risk. And this is something that we'll look at quite a lot. So again, we'll look at all of this in this panel. And so the first speaker that I would like to invite here is Sylvain Leroy. So Sylvain has been at ANSSI for over 15 years. Now is head of the Security Products and Services Division since 2019. So his division is actually in charge of defining and enforcing the controls and evaluation frameworks of all the products and services for the cybersecurity needs. It includes as well the national security, but of course, you can see that there's a lot of things that resemble certification in there. And also finally, Sylvain represents France in the ECCG. So Sylvain, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will present what we do in ANSSI with certification and qualification, how we manage the risk for different use cases with certification and qualification. So I will present the different evaluation schemes we have in ANSSI. So we have two product evaluation schemes. The first one is common criteria. So we are member of the CIS and CCR for a long time, and we will issue in the next week the first EUCC certificates. And we also manage another product evaluation certification scheme, which is CSPN, which is based on a European standard, which is FITSEM for fixed time evaluation. That's the product evaluation scheme. And on the service evaluation schemes, we have two IT services evaluation schemes, which are Secnumcloud and PAMS for hosting and for outsourcing. We have 4 cybersecurity services schemes, which are called in the EU context managed security services. So we have PAX, PASI, PDIS, and PRIS for protecting, auditing, detecting, and reacting. And we also qualify EIDAS services, including a special scheme we have on remote identity proofing. So, based on these evaluation schemes, we deliver certification and qualification. The difference between certification and qualification is that with qualification, we have a conformity assessment to requirements written by ANSI, taking into account the use cases we are responsible for. So, with this certification qualification, we offer to the users the guarantee that, depending on the different use case, some requirements so that the provider are in line with our requirements. So we have 3 types of use cases. The first one is protecting assets against technical risk. So we have requirements on IT security, competence, methodology. The second use case is protecting sensitive data against extraterritorial legislations or foreign access. So we have requirements in particular regarding the legal entity providing the service. And the third use case is national security, including critical IT infrastructure. And in this case, we have requirements in particular on national security clearance. And last slide, I present an example on cybersecurity services, so on managed security services. For this kind of services, so we have created these qualification schemes with the idea that we needed to have private providers doing the same activities as ANSI. So we began with a national security level, like ANSI at the same level as ANSI. We created after that level high with this for users that needed the same level of competency, but without the national security context. And very recently, we created level substantial for the NIS2 context and also to align with the CSA. So in this slide, I present the different activities we have in our cybersecurity schemes. So we have PACS, schemes for consultancy, so consultancy for risk analysis and security accreditation, which is important in the context of this panel on risk analysis. We also have consultancy for security architecture and for crisis management preparedness. In PASI for auditing, we have physical and organizational audit, architecture audit, configuration audit, source code audit, and also pen testing, which is important, pen testing in the context of assessing services in the context of the CSA, because for level I, we need pen testing. For the detection with PDIS, and for incident response, we have the activity of forensic analysis and IOC identification. Thank you.
So thank you, Sylvain. So our next speaker will be Helge Greutzmann. So Helge has been at BSI for over 20 years. He's now a principal advisor on conformity assessment, and he's actually highly knowledgeable on all aspects. I think you've been doing about everything, but actually doing the certification itself. Helge has been involved in more or less somehow most of the schemes that we've been working on different topics, but always bringing our important expertise. So even started working on the precursor of the schemes before there was the CSA, and then some work on the EUCC, some work support on EU 5G on accreditation, and also he's been participating to the standardization aspects that were related to the EUCS, particularly on the conformity assessment. So Helge also is sitting here for Sandra Mandela, but couldn't make it with this certification and standardization at BSI. Helge, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And yes, I'm for Sandro here, who unfortunately cannot come. He's leading the unit which is responsible for the NCSA, but also for certification and standardization at BSI. And for us, it's a very important topic that we handle vulnerability, that we handle the situation after the certification, because we have been very good. We have been certifying for a very, very long time, but this was the missing piece, the missing puzzle piece we always thought which was left out. So we have very good experience when it's going about, and that's the process was already detailed, at checking product, at issuing the certificate, and of course certified products are, when we say it in more general, much more secure than uncertified products in general, but we all know there's no absolute truth. So what we always experienced, or what we experienced several times already, was that there are vulnerabilities in the field. And then it was always kind of, what are we doing now? From BSI, we really have to think that we have to both educate the risk owners, because once a vulnerability appears, we have to think how to deal with it. We already learned in other panels that recertification is quite a tedious task and it takes time. And if you're under attack, you don't have this time. And also that you need to think how to handle this vulnerability. So what we also would like to stress, that there are very good work done about the vulnerability handling now. And we will hear about later on in the panel by other panelists about all the progress which has been made. But I would like to point out one thing we from BSI feel should have a little bit more attention in all this process, namely it is risk owner. So what we've experienced in the past, that there are high-level vulnerabilities and several products were involved. If it's a software product, well, you could say, well, you only, in quotes, have to provide a patch. But let's imagine, and we had a person from MasterCard here earlier on the panel, what happens if a vulnerability occurs, which is happening a common payment card. So good luck issuing a patch for your payment card. So you need to talk to the risk owner. You need to consider how you mitigate this problem, how you work around it. Maybe you can work in the back-end system. Maybe you need to actually issue new cards with the worst case scenario. But you really need to involve risk owners more in the process. And that's what we feel from BSI could be a little bit more highlighted in the process. Also, as I said earlier, what do you do before you get the patched, the updated product? At BSI, we have developed several options. One, we have worked on the flaw remediation patch management process, which we ran several pilots on. And we already heard that there is now, and I thank you for that, Inisa, a study how you can include that to actually make the patch, the flaw remediation process a part of the certificate to actually fulfill the vulnerability requirements. But also we have other schemes running at BSI. We already heard about a FITSAM scheme earlier. There we envisioned that you can make a very, very quick recertification. We haven't tried it out yet, but ideally it could be very, very fast so that we can limit this time. Also in our NASK scheme, which is a precursor for the hopefully soon continued work on EU 5G, that we developed a method called minor and major updates, where we could very, very quickly issue a minor update, only fixing the security vulnerability, and then knowing the process, knowing have some assurance, even before a formal certificate is issued, the customer can apply this patch, knowing that the process has been checked, that he knows, well, he doesn't know the certificate for the new patch, but he knows, okay, this it's a very, very high chance that this is high quality, and the process is established, which is checking it afterwards, but they're taking out the time so that you really get the patch out soon to the customer, soon to the risk owner. And that's a very, very important part, because being vulnerable but certified, well, I personally don't like it. And educating risk owners about this, I think, is a very, very, very important part. When we all need to involve that as a risk owner, or teach the risk owners that this needs to be done. Besides that, we're also looking forward now to this guidance, or we have this guidance. We're looking forward to working on more parts of this guidance. For example, working on composition, which is also a very, very difficult process. How do you get to knowledge that your composite product you're basing on, that this is vulnerable, that you might need to mitigate? Thinking again of smart cards, maybe you need to update your software to mitigate a smart card deficiency. And this is, of course, a very tough issue, but I think it's a very worthwhile. And that's why we are from BSI are supporting this in many numerous working groups. Colleagues of mine are involved there and bringing forward their ideas. And I think for an opening statement, this should be sufficient, but I, of course, will touch many more points in the upcoming discussion.
Thank you, Helge. And our last panel participant, it will be Gabor Horniak. So Gabor is the rapporteur of the ENISA thematic group on vulnerability handling and for certified solutions. So he's been actually active on vulnerabilities for ENISA for actually quite a while now. I think it was almost when he was also active in the EUCC ad hoc working group. You've been also, before that, working in the SOGA-IS ISKI and Sentinel JTC 13, and as a day job, you're also working at NXP, I think since 2021, and head of the site and process certification. So, welcome, and if you want.
Thank you. Okay, I'm supposed to have slides here. Yes. So, very good. I can start with two good news. This is the last Flash Insight today. And the second one is that we have a public guideline on vulnerability management and disclosure process for the EUCC. It's there in the ENISA EUCC website. You can have a look. And I provide a little bit of a summary of what is this process. But I know that it's hard to grasp it in its entirety, although I believe this is a really good achievement. A lot of people worked on it, that this is a very concise process. It's like, I think it is just a couple of pages. So you open it, you go through, and everything is clear, hopefully. If not, you can reach out and indicate what is problematic with it, because as Eric just mentioned, we are working on updates. And I also, before I go on, I would like to back up what Helge just said. This was the reason what he described when I started the Certified Product Updates subgroup in ISKI Group 1, I think 2018, that I also didn't like the status when somebody is certified and the product is vulnerable. So this is the result. We have been working long. I did create a couple of slides to make it a little bit more readable. So it starts when you realize that there is maybe a potential vulnerability, or somebody says to you, as you know, this is the developer view that they get this information, and the first step is an initial investigation. And the initial investigation, I cannot go in what that's about, but then you just look at it. Okay, is it maybe applicable? Is it maybe related to a composite certificate? Then you need to inform the composite certificate holder. And if you think that this doesn't relate to your product, then the whole process can stop. But if it relates to your product, you need to find out what is the impact. And you actually review the attack potential, whether it's within the boundaries of your EVA1 level or not. If it's a residual vulnerability, you can work on it, but again, this process can stop. But if it's maybe exploitable, you have to create an impact analysis report. The next one starts, you created the impact analysis report within timeframes. I will show you the timeframes as well. And the CB needs to be informed about this, and they review your report and they review your attack potential calculation. Okay, if they need more data, they will ask for more data. And then the question is whether your product contains an accepted patch management premise, which Helge also described a little bit. And if yes, then you can follow those procedures which are now in the new EUCC scheme implementing regulation. If no, you have to use the old assurance continuity procedure. And also, maybe your vulnerability cannot be remediated, then your certificate needs to be withdrawn. That's up there. But if it can be remediated, then there is a remediation process which you need to agree with the CB, and then you remediate and you inform the participants and you patch. Now, this is also important because we have very strict timelines, but if you have a justified extension request and you reach out to your NCCA, the NCCA can decide to give you an extension. And I think this is one of my favorite parts, because if the NCCA only acknowledges that they received this request, but they don't answer anything, now, according to this guideline, the extension request is approved. That's good, yeah? Because we all know NCCAs, maybe they are very busy, they look at it, yeah, okay. And you can then work a little bit more to remediate. Previously, Olivier mentioned that it can take more than a year to actually review and remediate. And then these are the maximum timeframes to conduct the vulnerability impact analysis. You know, if you download it and it's in your hand, it's much more readable. And the two things, there are different timelines here, but also if the vulnerability is under active exploitation, the guidance says, please work on it as fast as possible. And also in this guideline, you can read that priority should be given to the correction of the vulnerability and then to the renewal of the certification. That's really that's really important. And last sentence is, please take attention, because this guideline can become a state-of-the-art document. No, it's just recommendations, but it can be a list of requirements. Thank you.
So thank you, Gabor. So I think we will start discussing maybe a bit about risks and risk management. So, I mean, for me, risk has always been something that is a little bit too abstract for me. So whenever we talk about cybersecurity or certification, everybody is very happy with it. Oh, but we are risk-based. So it's all good. We're risk-based. Okay, but it's very rare that you get a good explanation of what does it mean to be risk-based. I mean, okay, we use risks, but how does it translate in practice into actually, going from identifying a risk, assessing it, and then finding some kind of measures? It's often not that clear. So, if you know, maybe you remember from looking at the NICE standards, the risk is the effect of uncertainty on of objectives. So that's very wide. So we all know that. in some areas, the risks are very well defined. If you look into the safety people, in many cases, they have a very good idea what they're talking about. When they're talking about the risk, they know what the effect of the risk is, they know what the probability of the risk is, and when they put an additional control, they know the effect. It will reduce the probability by 20%. The cost will go down. Okay, so I can afford that much money spent on that control because of this effect. In cybersecurity, you get the same question. People ask you, so how much am I going to save by doing this thing? How much does my risk go down? I'm still looking for someone who's able to answer that question. So we have some risk. We try to do something, but we're not able to quantify in any way. So we always end up having some kind of something that is difficult to assess completely. So this is something that so I will ask you a bit about that. But now there is a positive side. Things could get worse. Huh? There are some people working on AI, and they're talking about risks related to ethics. Now, good luck on that one. I mean, I don't want to be involved in this. Security is difficult enough. So I would start by Sylvain. So Sylvain, you mentioned that you are working in particular around the systems, what are the product services that are used in critical sectors. So in that case, how does certification help in terms of implementing some kind of a risk-based approach? I mean, how is it related to risks for you?
So with certification, we have a clear process. We have a standardized process. We have an assessment, conformity assessment made by an independent third party. So the critical sector can rely on that. We have transparency about the procedure, about what has been assessed, what was the methodology, what are the conditions with the certification. For example, with products, we have the AVA1 level, so we know the skills and competence of the attacker that has been considered. So it's very important to do the risk analysis. So you have transparency about the initial certificate, but you have also transparency during the life cycle of the certificate with vulnerability and incident. And with all these information, the risk owner can do its risk assessment. For critical infrastructure, they do security accreditation of an IT system. So they need to have accurate information about the products and the services they use. And in this context, certification is very important.
Okay. So thank you. Maybe one small additional question. So you mentioned the AVA1 level. So when we talk about risk, so who decides which AVA1 level is needed? Is it ANSI telling the critical sectors, you ask for VAN 4, VAN 5, or is it actually the sectors deciding, depending on their needs, what they...
It depends on the... I think it depends on the sector, on the project, in fact. In fact, for restricted information, we have AVA1 3 for software, and we have AVA1 5 for smart card. But smart card is a good example. For example, even if you are SME, I can see a use case when you don't use a smart card at AVA1 5 level, in fact. So it's so this level depends on the use case, but also on the type of product. But some products naturally are AVA1 5 level.
Thank you. So next I will ask Gabor. So you work on vulnerability handling, on making product updates, and then you also work for a chip vendor. So how do these two aspects meet when you talk about identifying risk and mitigating the risks?
You know that I'm working as head of site and process certification in the certification department, and when you talk about geographical locations and life cycle, that's very much risk-based. It's even more risk-based than when you talk about the vulnerability handling and vuln levels. But this is an interesting question, because we as a chip vendor, we don't know all the final use cases of our products. So when we create, I don't know, previously Johan Kleikens from Belgium talked about, you need to look at the use cases which are widely used. So for example, IoT. Now IoT, we go in and do the certification with that in mind, that we don't know where and who will use it. So we go into a risk-based approach, and we try to use a very clear, concise, understandable approach. That we are using CESIP there, and there we, as a risk level, we are choosing the CESIP levels. So whether it's CESIP2 black box approach, CESIP3 white box approach, or even higher, which then can connect to the common criteria levels as well. And when we talk about vulnerability handling, I can then relate back to how we and I put here this table on the guidance on the maximum timeframes. You look at it and you say, okay, if you have a vulnerability which the attacker very easily can exploit, then you need to resolve that very soon and as soon as possible. And that's a risk-based approach. And when you indicated that maybe it's not clear how are the numerals on these, I would like to say this is a continuous approach. You don't just do a risk assessment and then your risk assessment stays there true forever. You do it and redo it and redo it again and again. And that's what we do as a chip vendor and also in the vulnerability assessment.
All right, thank you. So then I will have a question for Helge. So you work also in the national authority. So we know that the risks are not necessarily always stable. So sometimes new risks arises, or the level of risk for a particular topic increases. So what happens when you have a wide range of certified products and then suddenly, I mean, or not suddenly, but a new risk arises that needs to be considered? Do these products kind of lose their certification, or how do you deal with these kind of situations?
Well, this is not a theoretical talk we are doing here, because we have actually experienced things like that. So we have seen new kinds of attacks. And I can't go into details, so I think Ingo would be probably not very happy to go into details later on. But on a high level, we have seen those kind of things happening. So there are new kind of attacks which have not been foreseen in the initial certification. And then, of course, it's hard work for the certification body, because we really have to look at this impact of this new risk, what it means for the products. And then, of course, there are several options, and they are similar to the vulnerability handling process. One would be that the certificate would be invalid. You can't save it anymore, but hopefully this is not the case. So maybe you can reduce the scope of the certificate, or you could use the attack resistance, say, okay, it's not AVAN 5, it's only 4 now. But you really have to look at it carefully, look at it also from the point of the problem. It's difficult that you probably not always know them, but with the risk owner's perspective, and then you really have to think if you reissue the certificates, as I said, with a different scope, with a different AVAN level, or if you need some other measures. For example, it really depends also how difficult it is to make a recertification at that point. We talked already about flaw remediation. If that's available, maybe you can, before publishing the certificate, you can undergo this path. But so it's a wide range of options, and really depends on the vulnerability and the associated risk with that. So that's what we also experienced, that it's sometimes even difficult to understand the vulnerability. So you get information, but then I can attack this product. I can bypass this authentication. And you really have to learn it first. So it takes already some time to spend on that. So having this extension possibility is really important in some cases, because before you know what the vulnerability actually is, you can assess how it affects certified products. So I can't give you a universal answer like you always do it like this, but it's really, we've seen the whole range of possible scenarios. Many are invalid, but unfortunately sometimes they are valid. Sometimes it's really a new kind of attack, as we've seen last year. And then we need to act, and then of course you need to coordinate with all certificate holders and also with your European partners. It will be more so under EUCC, but also under SOGIS. We need to coordinate, because most likely not only products at BSI certification are affected, but also products at NSI and all the other certification bodies are affected or might be affected. So that's a huge effort which you need to take.
All right, thank you, Helge. So I think here you already made a little bit of the transition towards the next topic, which is the topic of vulnerabilities. Because in the end, very often what happens is that, well, we look at a product, then something happens. So a vulnerability is identified, sometimes before the certification, so that's kind of a bummer for the people who want to get certified. At least a delay, but sometimes also after the certification. So here we need to like to understand a bit more in real life what it means. So Gabor, you showed us a very nice diagram, but I hope you know it by heart. Yeah. So let's say that we have a certified product, and then we have this big bad bug that comes in. What happens then? So you identify this vulnerability. Of course, being a good guy, you declare it, I guess. So what happens next?
Okay, if we are identifying the vulnerability, and now I'm going through the EUCC procedure because that's new and we are talking about it. That's one of the cases, but we can receive information about this vulnerability as well. Now, when we receive information, we need to do this initial analysis, which was there, initial analysis, and I didn't have time there to talk about it, but we need to check three things. Whether this is previously undetected, maybe we are already working on it. Whether this relates to or concerns the security of the product. If not, then it might not be a vulnerability, but a functional flaw. Now, whether this has an impact on the compliance with the requirements related to the certificate. Now, that's the hardest, meaning, is it within the scope of the certification? If it's within the scope of the certification, and every answer is yes, then the next question is, does it affect a composite product? Is that a platform which a composite product is already built on? Now, then we need to reach out and tell first the composite product certification holder, saying, guys, we found something, we don't know it yet, we didn't analyze it in detail, but maybe you need to start to look at that as well. And then we need to, if we need to go on, then there comes this table with the maximum timeframes and the risk assessment. These times, I think they range from 60 days, then go to 90 days, and then there can be a mutual agreement in between the CB and the certification holder. And there could be also that, that's beyond the levels, so you can take your time, but please work on it. As I said, priority should be on resolving the problem. And then an attack potential calculation also needs to take place. Now you calculate the attack potential and then get to decide, is it a residual vulnerability or an exploitable one? If it's an exploitable one, then you need to decide, is it remediable? If it's remediable, then you anyway need to create a detailed report about this and share it with the CB and if need be with the ITSF. And if it's not remediable, you reach out to the CB and you ask to withdraw the certification. If it's remediable, you agree. with what is the remediation, and you try to remediate. So that's in a nutshell what you need to do. And after your certificate is withdrawn and your problem is remediated, you need to reach out to the NISA vulnerability database and you need to publish it. But only if your certificate is withdrawn and the problem is remediated. That's what the implementing regulation contains.
So you said the certificate is withdrawn, but a new one has been issued, huh? Or
it could be, and it depends also on the patch management approach whether it contains, because in the patch management approach you have again 4 possibilities. It's not within the TOE the problem, then you can update your product. If it's a critical problem and you have this previously certified patch management approach, then you can update your product, and in parallel, the ITSF and the certification body will look at it. If it's a minor problem, it's allowed that the laboratory looks at it, but before you receive the new certificate, it's updated. And if it's a major problem, then you need to follow the route where both the laboratory and the certification body approves it, and then you can remediate.
Okay, so basically, I mean, when I listen to what you said, a lot of what you said is actually good practice, I would say. I mean, if you have customers using your products, I mean, of course you want to investigate, you want to inform them, you want to know what is bad. So the overhead coming from the certification is mostly that you have to write a few reports and discuss with your CB and ITSEF. That's... Or is it a bit more than that?
I mean, let's see, because yes, you can say that, but in our community, the certification holders, the developers, the manufacturers have been reaching out to this group that, hey guys, this is not that easy. It is a lot of overhead. It is a lot of work to find out what is the problem with the product, and then you need to write the report, and then you need to take care of the deadlines. So I don't know. Let's see it in practice. But this is what we try to create, and also that's important. If this is already exploited in the field, then you need to reach out. You need to create warnings to your end users, and do what Helga also described. Maybe descope. Maybe you need to work on the vulnerability level, the VUN level of your certification, but do it as fast as possible, because it's already exploited.
Yeah. All right, thank you. So next, I will ask Sylvain. So I know that Gabor mentioned the composition thing, but also you're also in charge again of the critical infrastructure. So if you have a certified product that is being used in the critical infrastructure, and you as the CB or as the NCCA, you learn that there is a vulnerability that is, creating some problems to some of the certified products. So then what do you do? What happens from your viewpoint there?
Yes, there are some points behind these questions. So the question is about the risk owner, in fact. Sometimes a risk owner asks for other than 5 products, in fact. But maybe sometimes they don't need other than 5 products during 15 years. What they want is to be sure that during 15 years, the product is above other than 3. So if after a vulnerability, it says that it's other than 4, maybe it's okay for him. So it is its decision, in fact. The question after that is what is done after the vulnerability. Maybe we have new recommendations with the same products, because we can manage the vulnerability with new recommendations. The question is it possible to enforce this recommendation? So that is the question of the company using the certificate, in fact. Is it possible for them to put in place a recommendation? And after that, if there is no solution, you can have organizational remediation. We have maybe if you have a problem on the control access, on the digital control access, you need to put in place human resources to do the control access.
All right, thank you. So actually what you said kind of resonates for me, because my day job is actually to design certification schemes, and one of them I'm working right now is starting the work on the scheme for the EUDI wallets, where we're kind of facing this thing where we have a scheme for services where we will rely on products, but usually, of course, the vendors, they maintain the certification as long as the product is on sale, that it's actually on the market or being delivered actively to the customers. But then after that, good luck. And of course, in terms of the certification of the wallet, we need to maintain the certification of the wallet itself as long as the wallet is used, which is slightly more constraining, but then it's a service. So that means that in some cases, we're going to have to solve that problem or to include this. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of solutions we can find. What happens when there is a product that is being used that encounters a problem? How do we maintain? We're going to need to have mechanisms to maintain the certification of the wallet, just as you said. And I think this is going to be an interesting challenge also for the group, because if you look at the eIDAS regulation, if the wallet loses its certification, it's really bad news, because then you have to remove it from all the devices. So it's not something that anybody wants to do immediately. So yes, these kind of things are going to be definitely interesting. But then if we follow on this, now we have a problem that's been found and then it's been fixed, but something I've always been wondering is that what happens, with the vendor now? Is the vendor necessarily done? Because maybe that the problem is that basically the guys are coding poorly. So maybe there's a problem. That's how do we know that the same bug will not happen, 2 months later with something else? So is there some kind of requirement to look at the root cause? Kind of we question the process? So Helge, can you try to explain on that?
Well, strictly speaking, right now, no. But of course, it is very sensible to do so. So when you have, in the modern world, when the CIA is fully in effect, you already have security by design, you have secure coding practices, you have a quality management. Maybe you've chosen Module H from the CIA, then you have quality management already established. Then, of course, this will be continuous improvement. And then you will look at your process. And if you look at, for example, the vulnerability from last year, nobody knew about it. You had no chance of fixing it in advance. Even if you had the best coding practice, the best chip design practices, it was no chance. Then, of course, no change necessary. But, of course, if you're new to the business, if you're maybe the first certificate, and your coding starts like, I'm downloading some libraries from the web and hope it works. I'm exaggerating here, but just to get the point, then of course you should revisit the point of your coding practices, of your processes. But when I started out my career at BSI, there was a nice story about a small company who underwent first-time certification. And he said, well, certification was a pain. It costs lots of money. It took me a long time, but the support effort I had afterwards was drastically lower because the quality was going up so much, the processes were improved during certification so much that afterwards the effort he had to invest for his customer were much lower. So I hope, right now I can only say hope, but I think with the CRA in the future it will be more or less automatically that the processes are already well established. And we all together will learn what are the best processes. There are lots of good process models already in the world. And as more and more people, more and more companies are going to use them, we hopefully learn where are the pros and cons of the various models. And then it's just the continuous improvement in these models. So it's not the question, do you need to improve your process, but where, at which stage you are improving them. So it's not the if, but just the where. And I think there we are getting at, and it's a good development, because in the end, errors will always be made, but we have to learn from them and we have to systematically improve. If it be a functional error where it only in quotes costs you money because customers are unhappy, or if it's a vulnerability, well, in the end, you always need to improve your processes. But I think it will be more and more automatically, more and more systematically in the future. And I think large companies like NXP probably, they already have it very much under control, but I think for the small ones, they will learn and they will improve in the future as well.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Just
yes,
a second.
Go ahead.
Can I resonate to that?
Sure.
Yes, of course. Thank you. But there is one sentence in this guideline of vulnerability handling which recently has been published, and that one sentence says the security life cycle of the product needs to be updated after remediation of the vulnerability, and this means exactly this. That you need to go back and look at your procedures and update your procedures so that this never happens again.
Okay. That was a bit cryptic, though. The security lifecycle needs to be updated to say you have to. Okay, that's
I think
fine.
We can thank Philip for that.
The guidance on the guidance, maybe. That's So actually, I think that we know that now we can address vulnerabilities. I think we have something that is quite clear, but I would like to maybe to look a little bit about how we can make things even better. So how we can make things better in the future. So at ENISA, we're trying to learn continuously from our experience in developing the schemes, and adopting the schemes, and less and less, and making them actually happen. So we're really just starting on the operations of the scheme and watching how that works. So in some things we already learned. I mean, so it's when we look at the work on the scheme of the UDI wallet, we definitely haven't started it in the same way as we have done before. So one of the things, for instance, that we've been doing is that we've been already reaching out, for instance, to national accreditation bodies, because we found out that accreditation is always something that has caused us a little bit of delays or problems. So now we want to make sure that in the next schemes we handle that a little bit better, so that we can actually be a bit more efficient on that. We also, very careful to make sure that we have all the underlying regulations, the way in which to do the scheme. So here we are also looking at the scheme a little bit differently, making sure that, for instance, what we will try to deliver as ENISA looks a little bit more like an implementing act, so that the translation is made a little bit easier. So all these kind of things, okay, we know and we're doing, but still, I would like to ask you to maybe to challenge us a little bit. So maybe starting by Helge. So we know that EUCC has taken a while, and in particular in the EUCC, we saw this morning that after 1 year, there are actually only a little bit more, not a handful, maybe 2 handfuls of cabs that has been accredited, which is not that much. I mean, we could have expected. I think that 1 year ago we expected something that would have been a little bit better than that. So how do you think we can actually at some point get better, and what we could try to do to make sure that this adoption is a bit more effective there with the scheme?
Yes, you basically gave the answer yourself already, because I think in EUC special accreditation was kind of an afterthought. You said, well, it's automatically done and you don't have to discuss it much, and you give a small group of people, they should write a paper, but then it took much, much longer than expected. So what I think it's very important, and this caused the delay now, or this late start, if you like, in EUCC, is that you start much earlier with the accreditation. I'm not talking about the exact requirements. So if this person needs the competence A or B, or if the lab needs the device A or B, I mean, these are fine discussions. You can do that at the end. But the fundamental discussions need to be done at the beginning. So when you start a scheme, you need to really know what kind of conformity assessment bodies you need, what kind of system you need. You probably need a certification body, that's clear, but do you need labs? Do you need inspection bodies? Do you need auditors? And that to get that clear at a very early stage. Because what we've seen in EUCC, that this discussion started very late, and then you had the implementing act, well, late arrived. I mean, at least our national accreditation body was really eager, looking that, is it amendment coming, or this state-of-the-art document, is it actually implemented or not? And this, of course, caused lots of delays. So I think when you start and you talked about the wallet, you should really, in the beginning, and you said you're already doing that, that's very great, take the experts for accreditation and tell them, this is the problem, this is what I'm going to certify, and what kind of conformity assessments do I need? Do I need auditors? Do I need evaluators? Do I need inspection bodies? And then have the fundamental systems settled quickly. The details, what kind of competencies, well, this can take time, and I think that's no problem for accreditation bodies. If they need to check 4 or 5 devices or rearrange the interviews, no problem. But if there's still discussions going on, like, is it an inspection body or is it an evaluation lab? Or is it something between? Is there some part in, some part out? Do I need to design my process that there's an interface between authorization and accreditation like we have in Germany because some part are not capable for the lab? This costs horrible time. Even if it's solved at the end, but it costs simply time discussing with people, and you can't expect those people from the accreditation body to be fluent in your scheme. They come from the general accreditation background, and they know the system, but they don't know how common criteria, for example, of EU5G or whatever works. So I think it's very important just to engage them early on, have the fundamentals right, and I'm very glad that we in EU5G, when we still worked on, we had people from EA early involved, which helped us guide in the process. And if you do the same in the wallet, I think that would be very, very valuable.
So thank you, but I think that also the discussions on the EU5G, they happened, but they were also quite difficult. I mean, these discussions were not easy, and so I think that is something that we will definitely address as well in the wallet, and it's not going to be an easy one because what is being done in the certification of wallet will kind of depend on many aspects. So it's not. I'm afraid that the answer will not be as clear as it was for EUCC in terms of what do we need in terms of nature of cabs. And so that's going to be good. But so now I have another question, maybe for Sylvain, because you actually are running a number of national schemes. So now you're getting into European schemes. So do you see any kind of difference? So, and also maybe some potential opportunities for optimizing the execution, or, for instance, if we look at the managed services, because you have already some schemes of managed services, some kind of pitfalls that we could avoid in the way forward on that.
Yes, so we have some experience with managed security services. So we have updated our schemes recently, considering the lessons learned. What is important is to be sure that the certifications constraint and the cybersecurity constraint are balanced with the operational efficiency. For example, for incident response, when you define the requirements for the IT system security, you have to take into consideration the fact that when you have to manage incident response, we will put malware on your IT systems to study them. So it's important to take that into account. We also have changed some requirements about contract or agreement between the provider and the client, because it has to be very simple, because when you do incident response, the priority is to work immediately after a cyber attack. You don't have 1 month to negotiate the contract and things like that. So it's very important to take into consideration this operational efficiency. We have the same subject with detection, because we have to have a good balance between security aspects and detection aspects. Sometimes there is a conflict between security and detection, because if you want to detect things efficiently, you need to have a high privilege on IT systems, and that brings some risk on the IT system. So you have also to find a good balance, and that's important in the managed security services. What is important also is is to have I think the plan is to have a horizontal layer for managed security services in the EU context. it's something we have a little, but so we try to have schemes with common points, but we don't really have an horizontal layer. And I think it would be a good improvement with the future managed security services scheme, especially for accreditation. If a cab want to operate in another scheme, if it's flexible, so if the accreditation is simple, because we have seen that accreditation can be complicated, it's good if there is a common framework for accreditation for all these managed security services.
All right, thank you. Now Gabor, the products that NXP sells, of course, they have to be. Some of them have to be certified. So you're looking into some requirements from the CSA, but they happen to be products with some kind of characteristics that makes them in the CRA. They can be used in NIS2 regulated areas, maybe even AI, whatever. So every one of these little regulations defines vulnerability handling constraints and requirements and things like that. So how is that handled for you? So now when you have the CC thing, are you okay with all the regulations and you know it, or you still have to do more? Can we do better in terms of defining all of this and refining them in the future? Or
you ask me whether we can do better, or you ask me whether you can do better?
It's okay, you can go.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I did ask the highest management of NXP about this, whether what happens, and I received the answer: NXP will always comply to the requirements, and we are working on that. But the fact that there are many different regulations and they don't ask us the same kind of approach but different, it will cost us and it will cost our customers as well. So can you do better? You know, if I look at it, the scopes of these regulations are different, and maybe that's why the indications about vulnerability handling also differ. So if it couldn't be done up there where they created these regulations, we need probably some place where we can interpret these, create scopes, create methodologies which then comply to all these regulations if need be. Maybe we will need some kind of evaluation labs or cabs. I'm telling you guys, we would need evaluation labs and cabs who would be able to provide services which provide certificates if needed, or attestation of conformity, or some kind of a proof that each of these regulations we can comply to. That's one of the probability. And the second thing which comes to mind, if I look at how EUCC handles this, we have an ISAC, and in that ISAC, all the stakeholders meet, and we can discuss transparently and openly, okay, this is a problem, what could be the solution? We create subgroups and in those subgroups create documents and solutions. And maybe this transparency could be then targeted for a larger scope. I don't know how yet, but this is my feeling, that we would need some kind of a forum where we could agree each and every stakeholder, the NAB, the certification body, the evaluation lab, and the developer as well.
All right, thank you. So I admit that this question was a little bit egoistic, because once again, looking at the wallet scheme, we know that these wallets will have some product components, so the CRA will apply. Some of the member states have decided that the wallets needed to be covered by NIS2. So we have the problem already that we know that these products will be covered by a number of regulations. So that, and obviously what we would like to do, that when the product is certified, we cover all the needs, because I think the one thing that nobody wants is to get 3 different certifications for 3 different regulations. So this is something that we definitely want to work on. And so I'd like to thank all the 3 of you, and maybe one reminder for you here. So we've had this discussion with the Commission about the Cybersecurity Act and the making all your remarks, all your comments on it, and I think this is something very important. So here we've been discussing freely about maybe what could be better, but really think about that and give this feedback, because we are trying to improve the Cybersecurity Act and the EU cybersecurity framework that is defining it. So please help us by providing some feedback to the Commission on that. And with that, well, thank you very much to the panelists here. Thank you. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you all. So we come to the end of the day. I will just take a few minutes to try to summarize some takeaways we could keep with us until we meet next year and for the next conference. I noted like 4 key, actually 5, but the 5th one is the result of the 4 key points we've addressed today for certification. First, it's supporting EU legislation. So we see it's part of the landscape. It's a tool that aims at supporting several regulations and directives. So have been mentioned, NIS2, Cyber Solidarity Act, the CRA many times. So it's here. We have this Lego. I like to talk about Lego. I think my colleagues maybe are tired of me speaking about Lego, but we have this brick that can bring consistency in the EU legislative landscape. Then, of course, it's technical centric. We've said certification should be by design. It's a bit hard when it comes after, but and that's how CBs, or actually, I don't want to use the word consultants, but the ecosystem can support developers and providers giving advice on how to bring certification from the start when developing a solution. It's all about processes and, of course, assessments. And what's key, we listened for the vendors already in the race for not the race, we say it's not a race, marathon, but without competition, to certification. Everything is about transition and how to adapt the processes. So it requires agility. So it's a long process, but still requires lots of agility. Then, of course, and we just talked about it, it addresses risks. So in risk, how do we talk about the supply chain? How do we handle with the third-party suppliers? This been talks through the different panels. How do we compose? And how do we handle this continuous monitoring if there is a vulnerability? How do we keep the certificate? How do we communicate with others? It's all about a chain and a chain of trust in that case. Another topic that will lead to my 5th one is actually certification is here to support the market. It's a tool. We saw it to support legislation, but everything else. But it needs to be supported by the market. And that's what we saw today with the first accredited cabs. It cannot work without companies, entities supporting it and investing in its resources and it's also need to shine more than EU certification, but we talk about mutual recognition with the CCRA. So it needs to go beyond the EU. And for the developers, vendors, providers, it's also about, it's been mentioned, marketing, and customers need to understand. So certification is also a differentiator. It's not just a stamp. We know there is a long marathon and processes and work behind it, but it's a key differentiator as well for the market. And it's still generally voluntary. It's not going to remain voluntary. For example, the wallet not. But so differentiating and having an event like that where we also showcase successful stakeholders. So today the CABs, but tomorrow the developers and providers that will be certified is key to push and leverage the uptake of certification. So recognition is my last point on it. But all of these 4 points, and we've mentioned it a lot, it's all about working together. So public and private, national, member states, and the European Union. It's all about creating this chain of trust together, of work, and the Commission was here to hear your feedback, your questions. There will be the public call for the revision of the CSA. So it's all about building it together. Exchanging good practices and supporting the cooperation between competitors, but also more than competitors is people working together against the cybercrime. We've mentioned that today. So it's really a collective achievement, and we are just at the beginning of it. We only have one scheme out. The Commission, and it's been mentioned a lot that the call for a new scheme on managed security services is coming, and so we will be ready for that. We have some work. So I just wanted to thank as well today for this day. All of you who came and participated until the end. People online, we had also a very good attendance until the end of the event. The tech team and Pavel, who really supported us all day long. I want to thank the Polish colleagues and NASK, especially Monika Gajewska-Pol and Paweł Koskiewicz. Okay, I practice a bit. Colleagues from ENISA, the moderators, of course. I know we have online tech support Vicente, who couldn't make it this year, but he's checking the sound is good and we have good quality. And especially to Ksenia as well, who really supported us all day long and all week long. So thank you. We're very happy, and we give you. We will meet you next year in Cyprus. So the date has to be confirmed, but mid-April. So save the date. Hopefully we have good weather like this one. So thanks a lot.